So, this is me, trying to beat one of Ultrakill's hardest levels, P-1. Why? Well, I said if we had 200 followers on Twitch, I'd try it. And, we did. And that means you guys are the ones that made me do this. Alright, first things first, what the hell is P1? To put it simply, P1 is a secret level inside of Ultrakill, which you unlock after getting a P or perfect rank on all of the levels in the Prelude and Act 1. P1 is home to 2 bosses, one of which should legally be considered a form of torture. Why? Well, we'll talk about that later. Before that, I'm going to focus on the first boss, the Flesh Prison. Minos' prison is far from being one of the hardest bosses in the game. In fact, it's so easy, you can beat it in just one cycle. To make the fight easier, you might want to bring along an ult revolver and a saw gun, but it's not necessary to kill it. While I don't have a strategy for killing the boss itself, I do have one for getting rid of the pesky eyes that it uses to heal itself. But before I can show you the strategy, I'll need to show you this clip to explain it. This is a nuke boost, and it's a commonly used strategy in Ultrakill speedrunning. Why is this important? Well, the explosion it produces is massive. In fact, it's large enough to kill every one of the eyes just as they spawn in. And after that, all you really have to do is deal as much damage as possible to the prison as fast as you can. But the prison isn't really the boss of the level, it's only there to make it a bit more of a challenge. This is where I get to introduce you to P1's true boss fight, Minos Prime. Minos Prime is by far one of the most annoying boss fights I've ever had to do in a game. That does not mean it's bad. This boss fight is actually one of the best I have ever played in any game ever. And for one of the final bosses of this game, Minos Prime definitely lives up to his expectations. But enough talking about him, let's get into the actual fight. Minos' boss fight has 2 stages, each of which has their own fighting style. For the first stage, it helps to play very defensive, try to avoid as many of his attacks as possible, and slowly chip away his health. In the second stage, Minos is much more aggressive, but if you know what you're doing, it can actually be much easier than the first. Because I suck at explaining things, I'm really quickly just going to voice over a fight that I recently did on Minos. That way, nobody has to hear me have a stroke. Alright, so first things first, Minos does a crap ton of hard damage, like a worrying amount. If you don't know what hard damage is, it's basically when you take damage and your max health goes down with it. Because of this, you'll see when I fight Minos, my primary goal is to avoid as many of his attacks as possible to try to not take any hard damage. All of his attacks also have parry windows, meaning that you can switch to the default arm and punch to deflect the attack and heal you in the process. This is great for, say, not dying. There are also a few things you can do to get a lot of damage done fast. For example, right at the start of the fight, Minos won't attack you for a little bit. If you throw some coins up into the air and shoot them with a rail cannon, a slap gun, anything you want, you can get a lot of damage done right off the bat. You can also try to trap Minos using the saw gun, or attach a magnet to him and deal a lot of damage using the nail gun. Again, the first part of the fight is really easy, and it's a great place for you to learn all of his attacks. So try your best to focus on that. Moving into the second, and in my opinion, much more enjoyable phase, you'll start to notice the difficulty ramping up. This phase has one major flaw though, and that's that Minos starts throwing tens more of his serpents at you. As for the fight itself, his attacks are exactly the same as the first phase, except they happen much faster, and you have less time to react. Again though, thanks to the crazy amount of serpents, as long as you're able to keep parrying at least half of them, you'll be able to stay alive just fine. That's really it to the second phase. I'm making it sound much easier than it is, when in reality it took me hours to beat this. But yeah, just put in the time, follow this, and it should be rather easy to beat. Usually I'd have some like, ooh, cool, grand ending to this, but I really don't. This was a big thing that I did. I spent a long time doing it, so I wanted to help some other people do it. But there is one thing I want to leave on, and that's that this whole thing happening was a long-term goal. I had this plan months in advance for when we hit the follower goal, and it took a bit, but we finally did it. The reason I'm making a whole video about it is because I plan to move over to YouTube sometime soon. I'm trying to grow an audience on here, and I kind of need to set a new one, so this seems like a great place to start. So, yeah, when we hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, doesn't have to be today, doesn't have to be tomorrow, I'll attempt the other hard fight in the game, Sisyphus, and I'll do that live on YouTube instead of Twitch. So yeah, go follow. Okay, bye. Yes, chat! Let's go!